Exclusive, the net closes. Ex-story chief faces child sex arrest over claims girl was raped and boys were abused. The probe into a former cabinet minister, the notorious pedophile Sidney Cooke, Jimmy Savile, and MP 𝗖𝗆𝗲𝗱𝗶𝗁𝗆. By Justin Penrose. The 16th of February 2013. Updated the 3rd of September 2014. Police are preparing to arrest a former Tory cabinet minister after a woman came forward to claim she had been raped by him as a girl. Detectives are also investigating claims that he abused boys. We can reveal that the former minister is suspected of being part of a VIP pedophile ring that was regularly handed boys by child rapist and killer Sidney Cooke for vile sex orgies. The former high-ranking MP, who we cannot name, is under investigation by Scotland Yard's paedophile unit. Sources close to the probe gave details of the new allegations to the Sunday Mirror and investigative news website 𝗧𝗍𝗍. A former detective who worked on the original investigation into Cooke told the Sunday Mirror that the minister was among those alleged to have been photographed in a 1986 police surveillance on premises where boys had been dropped off. Others allegedly included Jimmy Savile, MP 𝗖𝗆𝗍𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗆 and top judges, though none of them were ever arrested. Cooke, 85, dubbed Britain's most notorious pedophile after he tortured and killed 14-year-old Jason Swift in 1985, would pick the unsuspecting teenage boys up off the streets around King's Cross. He would drive them to locations across North London where pedophiles lay in wait to repeatedly rape them. Last week the former officer, who worked on Operation Orchid which convicted Cooke and his gang, said they had taken pictures of the minister. The former officer said up to 16 high-profile figures were due to be arrested. But the day before they were to be carried out, detectives were told the operation had been disbanded. The revelation means Scotland Yard knew about allegations concerning the cabinet minister and Savile in 1986 but did nothing about it, instead choosing to cover up the claims. A source told 𝗧𝗍𝗍𝗍 last week that senior officers, including Commander Peter Spindler, the head of the pedophile unit, have had a secret briefing on preparations to arrest the ex-minister. It is understood that the investigation is at an early stage, but there is a plan to arrest him in the next few weeks. After the 1986 operation into Cooke was disbanded, the former officer went to check the file only to find the pictures had disappeared and any mention of the men involved had also vanished. The former officer said it was clear a cover-up had taken place. The investigation showed that Cooke would pick up rent boys and take them back to flats or garages where large groups of men were waiting to abuse them. These pedophiles, which included a lot of high-profile figures that were said to include the former cabinet minister, Savile and MP 𝗖𝗆𝗍𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗆, all knew each other and all operated together. They would lie in wait and Cooke would turn up with the boy who wouldn't know what was going to happen. We had photographic evidence of these high-profile figures entering or leaving buildings where the abuse was taking place. Everyone knew Savile was a pedo, but nothing was ever done. 𝗖𝗆𝗍𝗶𝗁𝗆 was photographed going into one of the properties with a high-profile film director. All of the others were pictured and were going to be arrested before the plug was pulled. I was sickened, and to this day I wonder how many children we could have saved if we had been allowed to arrest those men. I feel guilty they weren't arrested, but there was nothing I could do at the time as the evidence had gone. The Sunday Mirror knows the identity of the pedophiles in the gang but has chosen not to name them. In 1993, Detective Superintendent Ed Williams tried to track down the Orchid file on Cooke to see if there were any similarities with the abduction and murder of 9-year-old Daniel Handley, but he struggled to find the folder. He eventually found it in the basement of Arbor Square Police Station in Stepney, East London. While there were references to a wider pedophile ring, there were no photographs or names. He eventually found it in the basement of Arbor Square Police Station in Stepney, East London. While there were references to a wider pedophile ring, there were no photographs or names. Mr. Williams said, "I was very upset about the way the Met treated pedophile cases, but I was a voice in the wilderness at that time and people thought I was being over-emotional. I found the Orchid files where they had been put for storage purposes and somebody had completely forget to send it back to the yard. I was trying to look for pedophiles and connections with other cases as I was trying to build up a profile of the offender. The report spoke about boys being passed around from pedophile to pedophile. There were no pictures on the file. It did mention that there was a wider ring of individuals, but did not mention Jimmy Savile or a cabinet minister. Sidney Cooke, along with 3 accomplices, Leslie Bailey, Robert Oliver, and Stephen Bareilles, was found guilty of the manslaughter of Jason Swift in May 1989. They have been linked to up to 20 murders. Cooke was believed to have murdered 7-year-old Mark 𝗖𝗆𝗲𝗋𝗆, but the Crown Prosecution Service decided not to bring charges as he was already serving 19 years for Jason's death. He was released in 1998 to a public outcry, but was rearrested the following year for systematically abusing two boys in the 1970s and jailed for life. Savile was exposed last year as one of the UK's most prolific pedophiles, with 450 victims. Police said he groomed a nation by avoiding justice while abusing hundreds of children over 54 years. Officers on Operation 𝗖𝗆𝗏𝗏, which investigated the claims, have also arrested celebrities including Gary Glitter, comedian Freddie Starr, DJ Dave Lee Travis, publicist Max Clifford, and comedian Jim Davidson. All have denied any wrongdoing, and not all the allegations involve under a 16s. Scotland Yard said they would not comment on an ongoing investigation. Moore's murderers Ian Brady and Myra Hindley were pedopals with disgraced Jimmy Savile. Disgraced radio DJ Jimmy Savile has been accused of buying indecent photographs of children from evil killers Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, whom he even visited in jail. By Lee McManus. The 30th of September 2022. Jimmy Savile was accused of buying indecent photographs of children from evil killers Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, and even formed a twisted pedophile ring with them, a researcher claimed. Erica Gregory, who has devoted years of her life investigating the Moores murders, even said that Savile visited them both inside, where they were serving time for the killing of 5 children. The news comes as one of their victims' remains have potentially been found. The body of Keith Bennett is officially missing, but investigators are looking at the possibility that remains found on Saddleworth Moor could be his. Gregory told the Star exclusively in 2017 that she was suspicious of the killer's relationship with the radio and TV legend, who was known to be friendly with Yorkshire Ripper Peter Sutcliffe. Before their arrest in 1965, Savile ran the BBC studios from Manchester's Dickinson Road, where Top of the Pops was filmed. The investigator said, "I believe they went to the BBC studio regularly to make a fuss and try to get in with Savile." Alongside David Smith, Brady was selling photographs of children to make money at this time. I believe Savile could have been one of his customers. It is well known that Savile visited them both inside. I believe they were in a ring of some sort. It doesn't stop there, though. In 2014, Dan Davies noted that Savile chillingly replied, "I am the Myra Hindley story," when asked on his opinion of it. And Gregory believes that Savile continued to communicate with the killers after their incarceration, visiting them and using songs played on the radio to transmit coded messages. Savile could have been using his radio for secret messages, she said. Brady was responsible for the brutal murder of 5 children in and around Greater Manchester alongside serial killer lover Myra Hindley in the 1960s. The twisted 79-year-old never revealed the location of Keith Bennett's body despite desperate appeals from the 12-year-old's mum Winnie Johnson, who died in 2012. Before his death, Brady had been incarcerated at Ashworth Hospital since 1985, while Hindley died in 2002 after 35 years behind bars.